The words spilled out of her like steam from a kettle left too long on the fire. "I've been burning down there." Cade Walker didn't move. Didn't blink. The desert wind hissed through the cracked boards of the house, carrying sand across the floor between them. The lamp on the table flickered, throwing her shadow long and thin against the wall. He had faced gunmen, cheats, and men twice his size. Nothing had ever hit him like that sentence. She stood near the doorway, fingers twisted in her skirt, breathing uneven, like she already regretted letting it out. Cade leaned back in his chair, slow and careful. "What exactly do you mean by that, ma'am?" Her throat moved. Not fear, not shame, something heavier. "You're my husband now," she said quietly. "You ought to hear the truth before the town starts telling it for me." That word, husband, still felt foreign in his ears. 6 hours earlier, Cade Walker had been the freest man in the Arizona Territory. Now he was sitting in a half-broken house, staring at a woman he'd married without ever learning her favorite color. And she was talking like this: "If you're still here, stay with me," because the truth behind those words isn't what anyone in that town expected. The whole mess started with a hand of cards. Cade didn't believe in bad luck. He believed in weak men. But that night, under the low yellow light of the Silver Creek Saloon, he saw something in Barrett Hayes' eyes that didn't sit right. Too calm, too sure. Still, Cade played. That's what he did. Cards slid across the table. Coins stacked higher. Men leaned closer. And when the final hand hit the wood, Cade already knew he had a strong hand. Strong enough to break most men. But when Barrett laid his cards down one by one, the room erupted. Not for Cade, against him. Cade didn't blink, didn't curse, but something inside his chest dropped hard. He'd lost. Not just money, not just pride. Something worse. Barrett leaned forward, smiling slow. "You don't just lose the pot," he said. "You lose your freedom." The room laughed. Cade didn't. "What are you talking about?" "You marry her." "Who?" Barrett pointed toward the door. A woman stood there in a plain dress, hands folded, eyes lowered. Half the men in the room had probably seen her every day and never noticed. "Sarah Bennett," Barrett said. "Quiet as a grave. Works her father's store. Never been courted. Never been wanted." The laughter got louder. Cade's jaw tightened. "This ain't funny." "It ain't meant to be." Barrett's voice dropped. "You win. You walk away richer than any man in this territory. You lose. You take her as your wife. 1 year. No running." The room went still. A man's word here meant something. Cade could walk out, lose his name, lose his place at every table from here to Santa Fe, or he could say yes. He looked at the woman again. She didn't look up, didn't speak, didn't beg, just stood there, like she'd already made her peace with whatever came next. That unsettled him more than anything. "You agree?" Barrett asked. Cade let out a slow breath, then nodded. "Deal. The wedding happened fast. Too fast." Church bells, whispers, eyes watching every step. Cade stood at the front, hands steady, but something inside him felt off balance. Then the door opened. Sarah walked in, not shaking, not dragging her feet, walking straight like she chose it. That bothered him because nobody chose something like this, not unless they had nothing else left. Her hand slipped into his, warm and firm. Not weak. The preacher spoke. Cade barely heard it until the words came. "Do you take this woman?" "I do." He didn't remember deciding to say it, but he did, and just like that, it was done. Now she stood in front of him in their house, his house, their house, and she had just said something no man expected to hear from a bride on her first night. Cade stood slowly, boots creaking on the wood floor. He stepped closer, not too close, not yet. "You're going to explain that," he said. Her eyes lifted, gray, sharp, not soft like he expected. "I spent years standing behind a counter," she said, watching women walk in with husbands who looked at them like they mattered. Her fingers tightened. "I listened to them talk, laugh, complain, live." She swallowed. "And I stood there and felt nothing. Not once." Cade didn't interrupt, didn't soften, didn't move. "Not because I didn't want to," she continued, "but because nobody ever looked at me long enough to give me the chance." The lamp flickered again. Wind pressed against the walls. "I said yes to that bet because I was tired of feeling like I didn't exist." Now she stepped closer, close enough that Cade could see the faint tremble in her hands. "That ache," she whispered, "it ain't just in my body." Her eyes locked onto his. "It's in my whole life." Cade's breath slowed. Something shifted inside him. Not pity, not desire, something deeper. He'd expected a burden, a quiet, invisible girl he could ignore for a year. But this woman wasn't invisible. She'd just been waiting. And now she was standing in front of him, finally seen. He ran a hand over his jaw. "You think marrying me fixes that?" "No," she said. Then softer. "I think it's the first time I chose something for myself." Silence filled the room, heavy and real. Cade turned away, pacing once, twice, trying to settle something inside his chest that didn't want to settle. Then he stopped. "You want honesty?" "Yes. I didn't want this. I know. I don't know how to be a husband." "I know that, too." Cade let out a breath through his nose, then looked at her again. Really looked. And for the first time he didn't see a mistake. He saw a woman who had stepped into a storm on purpose. That took more courage than most men he knew. "All right," he said finally. Her brow furrowed. "All right, what?" "We're in this now." A pause. "Business deal, right?" She nodded slowly. "That's what we said." Cade stepped past her, then stopped at the bedroom door. "You take one room, I take the other." She didn't argue. "Fine." He hesitated, then added, "But don't lie to me again." Her voice came softer this time. "I didn't lie." Cade glanced back. "No?" he said. "You just said it in a way that sounded like something else." For a brief second, her lips almost curved. Then she turned away. "Good night, Cade." He stood there a moment longer, then stepped into his room, closed the door, and leaned his head back against it. Outside, the wind kept moving. Inside, something had changed. Because for the first time since losing that hand of cards, Cade Walker wasn't thinking about how to escape. He was thinking about what he had just walked into, and whether this quiet woman might be more dangerous than any gamble he'd ever taken. Cade didn't sleep that night. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint sounds from the other room. A floorboard creaked, water poured into a basin, the soft rustle of fabric. His wife. That word still didn't sit right, but it stayed there, heavy in his chest. Morning came slow. Cold light slipped through the window, painting pale lines across the floor. Cade sat up, ran a hand through his hair, and stepped out into the main room. Sarah was already there, moving quietly. Coffee sat on the table, bread beside it. She didn't look at him. "Morning," he said. "Morning." Short, clean, no awkwardness. That bothered him more than anything. Like last night hadn't happened, like those words meant nothing now. He poured coffee, took a sip. Bitter, strong, just how he liked it. "You always wake this early?" he asked. "Yes. That's a long day. I'm used to it." Cade leaned back, watching her. Still quiet, still controlled, but not invisible. Not anymore. "You don't have to go back to that store," he said. Her hands paused, just for a second, then kept moving. "I know." A silence. Then, "But I will." Cade frowned. "Why?" She finally looked at him. "Because sitting in this house all day pretending this is normal would be worse." That hit harder than he expected. He nodded once. "Fair." She wiped her hands, stepped past him, close enough that he caught the faint scent of lavender, and said, "Lock the door behind me." Then she was gone. The house felt bigger after that, too big, too quiet. Cade stepped outside. The sun was already climbing over the dry hills. 40 acres, water, good soil, everything a man needed to settle, everything he had spent his life avoiding. He walked it slow, boots crunching against dry dirt, trying to convince himself this wasn't a cage. But every time he looked back, that house stood there, waiting, like it knew he'd come back. By afternoon, he found himself in town. Didn't remember deciding to go, just ended up there. Men watched him. Some smirked. Some nodded. Word had already spread. Cade Walker, married. The thought still tasted wrong. He pushed through the saloon doors. The smell hit him first. Whiskey, smoke, familiar. Barrett Hayes sat at the same table, grinning before Cade even reached him. "Well, look who survived his wedding night." Cade didn't sit. "Careful. I might start thinking you planned all this." Barrett laughed. Oh, I planned it just fine. Didn't think you'd stay, though. Cade's jaw tightened. I gave my word. Yeah, Barrett said, leaning back. That's what makes it fun. Cade stared at him a long second, then turned away. Didn't drink. Didn't stay. That surprised even him. When he got back, the sun was dropping low. The sky burned orange. The house looked different. Smoke curled from the chimney. Light flickered inside. For a second, it didn't feel like a trap. It felt like something else. He stepped in. Sarah stood at the stove, sleeves rolled, hair slightly loose, cooking like she belonged there. You're back, she said. Yeah. He set his hat down, watched her move. Efficient, quiet, but not cold. Smells good. It's simple. That's fine. They ate across from each other, not touching, not speaking much, but the silence felt different now. Less sharp. More shared. Halfway through, she spoke. You went to town. Yeah. To the saloon? Yes, she nodded once. Didn't ask more. Didn't judge. Just accepted it. That made him uneasy. You don't care? He asked. She looked up. I didn't say that. Then what? She set her fork down carefully. I married a man who lives in saloons and cards. I'm not foolish enough to expect that to disappear overnight. Cade leaned back, studying her. You always this practical? No, a small pause. I just learned the hard way that expecting too much from people leaves you disappointed. That sat between them, heavy. Cade didn't have an answer for it. Didn't even try. That night the wind came harder than before. Not a breeze, a force. It rattled the shutters, shook the walls. Cade sat up in bed instantly. Something wasn't right. A crack split through the air, sharp and close. He jumped up, yanked the door open. Water poured through the ceiling. Sarah was already there, dragging a bucket across the floor. Roof's breaking, she said. No panic, just facts. Cade grabbed another bucket, set it under the leak. Another crack. Wood splintered. Rain slammed down harder. Back room, he said. Less exposure. She nodded. Didn't argue. They moved fast. Blankets, food, anything dry. The storm roared louder, like the sky itself was tearing open. Cade ran outside for the ladder. Rain hit him like stones. He climbed anyway, hands slipping, fingers gripping tile, trying to hold something together that didn't want to stay whole. Sarah moved through the chaos, dumping water, dragging furniture, fighting. Not freezing, not breaking. That surprised him more than anything. They made it back inside, soaked, breathing hard. The back room held, barely. They shut the door, sat against the wall. Close, too close. But neither moved away. The storm pounded around them. For a long moment, only breathing. Then she spoke, quiet. I was supposed to leave. Cade turned slightly. When? 3 months ago. Why didn't you? She stared at her hands. My father. A pause. He needed me. Cade nodded once. He understood that kind of weight. She shifted closer. Not by much, but enough to feel it. I said yes to the bet because it was the only door left open. Her voice dropped. And I was tired of standing still. Lightning flashed. For a second, her face lit bright, alive, real, not quiet, not invisible. Cade swallowed. Something in his chest moved. I didn't come back for the house, he said suddenly. She looked at him. Then why? He held her gaze. Because you were in it. Silence, different this time. Not empty, not cold, heavy, real. Her fingers brushed his arm, accident at first, then stayed. The storm kept raging. But inside that room, something had shifted. The storm dragged on through the night, tearing at the house like it wanted inside. Cade stayed awake. Not because of the wind, but because of her hand, still resting against his arm. Every time thunder rolled, her fingers tightened just a little. And every time, Cade didn't move, didn't pull away. For a man who had spent his whole life avoiding closeness, he didn't push her back. That was new. By morning, the storm had passed. What it left behind wasn't mercy. The front room was ruined. Ceiling torn open, water pooling across the floor, furniture broken. The house looked like it had lost a fight. Sarah stepped out first, barefoot, dress damp, hair loose over her shoulders. She didn't freeze, didn't stare. She walked straight into it, picked up a chair, set it upright, checked the damage. Working. Cade watched her for a second, then joined. No talk, no complaints, just movement. Together, neighbors came, men with tools, women with cloth. Nobody laughed this time. They saw the damage. They saw the two of them standing side by side, and something in the way they worked earned silence instead of mockery. By evening, the house stood again. Not whole, but standing. Cade leaned against the wall, breathing slow. Sarah stood near the window, watching the sky. "You stayed," she said quietly. Cade didn't answer right away. "I gave my word. That's not why." He looked at her. She turned, gray eyes steady. "You don't strike me as a man who stays just because he has to." Cade pushed off the wall, walked closer. "Then why do you think I stayed?" She held his gaze. "Because you chose to." Something in his chest tightened. He hadn't thought of it like that. Not until now. Days passed. Work filled them. Fixing walls, replacing beams, clearing land. And slowly, the silence between them changed. They spoke more. Short at first, simple but real. Sarah laughed once, soft, quick. It caught Cade off guard. He looked at her like he hadn't heard right. She noticed. "What?" "Nothing," he said. But it wasn't nothing. Then came the riders. 3 of them, cutting across the land like they owned it. Cade saw them first, his hand already moving toward his gun. "Inside," he said. Sarah didn't move. "Inside," he repeated. "No," he turned sharply. "Sarah, I won't hide." Her voice didn't rise, didn't shake. Just held. The riders stopped short, dust settling around them. The lead man smiled. Ugly. "You're the gambler," he called. Cade stepped forward. "And you're trespassing." The man's eyes shifted past Cade to Sarah, standing there, still, watching. Something changed in his face. "Didn't know you had a wife," he said. Cade didn't answer. The man laughed once, spat to the side, then turned his horse. They rode off, just like that. No shots, no blood, just tension left behind. Cade stood there a long moment, then looked at Sarah. "You should have gone inside." She stepped closer. "I didn't want to." "That's not the point." "It is to me." He ran a hand over his face, frustrated. "You don't understand how fast things can turn." "I do," she said quiet. "But I also understand something else." "What?" She met his eyes. "I'm not invisible anymore." The words landed deep. Cade felt them settle. That night, they sat on the porch, the sky clear, stars sharp above them. No storm, no wind, just quiet, real quiet. Sarah's shoulder brushed his. She didn't move away. Neither did he. "You regret it?" she asked. Cade didn't look at her. "No, not even a little?" He shook his head, then added, "I regret how it started." A pause. "But not where it's going." She breathed in slow, like that mattered more than she expected. He turned then, looked at her fully for the first time. Not as a burden, not as a mistake, but as a woman, real and strong, standing right in front of him. "You ever think—" He started, then stopped. "What?" "That maybe this wasn't the worst thing that happened to us?" She studied him, careful. Then, "No, I think it might be the first real thing that ever did." Silence again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was full. Cade reached out slow, gave her time, every second. His fingers touched her cheek. Warm. She didn't pull away, didn't flinch. Her breath caught just slightly. "Sarah," he said. Not loud, not soft, just her name. She stepped closer. That was all the answer he needed. He leaned in, paused just a moment, giving her the chance to stop it, to step back, to say no. She didn't. Their lips met. Not rushed, not forced. Real. The kind that changes something you can't put back. Her hand found his shirt and gripped like she meant it, like she'd been waiting. Cade pulled her closer, not thinking anymore, not calculating, just feeling. For once. When they finally broke apart, neither stepped back. Neither looked away. "You're not just a deal anymore," he said. Her voice came low. "Neither are you." Another pause. Then she whispered, "What are we now?" Cade exhaled slow. "Something I didn't plan." A small smile touched her lips. "Good," she said. "Neither did I." The wind moved through the trees. Soft this time. Not a threat. Just there. Cade stood beside her, closer than before, closer than he ever let anyone stand. And for the first time in his life, he didn't think about leaving. Didn't think about the next town, the next game, the next escape. He thought about this place, this woman, this moment, and how it felt like something worth staying for. If you made it this far, you already know. This wasn't a story about a bet or a marriage or even a mistake. It was about the moment a man who never stayed finally stopped running. Cade looked at her again. Really looked. And this time he didn't see a stranger. He saw his future. And for once he didn't fold.